We're going live with Hadassah today to discuss how she supports mothers who have ADHD or executive functioning struggles. I love what Hadassah does, and I think you might too. I love the way she supports mothers. Um, I just love that we live in this day and age where there's so much available. Um, yeah, to support us as parents and mothers. So, Hadassah's here. I'm just gonna add her. Hello, everybody. Hadassah should be joining. Oh,
Hi,
hi,
Blumi. I'm
Hadassah.
so
I was just
excited
mentioning,
to be here.
I don't know if you heard me, I was just mentioning, I just love that we live in this day and age where there's so much support out there. I feel like, let's say when I was growing up, there were so many mothers who struggled with ADHD and executive functioning struggles, and there was no support out there. And I think they just felt terrible about themselves. Maybe that's just my imagination, but in a world where it's like, this is how you should do it, and this is what a good mother does, and this is how you run your household. And I feel like the type A personality was like the ideal, and it was like, this is how it should be. And yeah, it was hard for parents who had struggles, or mothers specifically, because that's who you support, to keep up with that. And I just love that we live in a day where you're around to support mothers. And yeah, so okay,
Thank you.
I'm rushing in. Yeah, I'm rushing in with ahead of the game a little bit. I think there's many people here who don't really know what you do exactly. So
Sure.
yeah, do you want to introduce yourself and I guess share what it is that you do?
Sure. First of all, I wanted to thank you so much for having me. I love your message. It resonates with me so much, and it's so in line with what I do. It's the mending of the compassion and the boundaries and the learning and the responsibility, the two together. It's just, I love it, and that's why I asked you. It's such an honor to be here, really.
Thank you.
Um, and okay, so my name is Hadassah Eventsur. I'm an OT. I'm a life coach. I'm a Mishpacha magazine contributor on the topic of neurodivergence in Frum women. And I'm the founder of Mindfully You, a program that supports Frum women with executive functioning challenges with or without a diagnosis of ADHD. And I just wanted to respond to what you were saying about the supports out there for many different demographics and many different diagnoses and people or situations. There is support out there, but for the Frum woman who struggles with ADHD or is not managing care tasks or daily living, there isn't a lot of support out there. It's quite new. I get messages all the time, like somehow we're supposed to figure it out, know how to do it, right? And especially if we have neurodivergent children who are struggling, we're supposed to be their supports. We're supposed to help them. We're supposed to jump in and in the IEP meetings, we sit there and we're given all these instructions on how to support them, right? And we listen to you and all your amazing advice, but a lot of times women themselves struggle with similar things that their children struggle with, and they actually don't know that they may have a diagnosis until their children go through the system and get tested, and then they're like, oh, okay, this sounds very much like me, but who's supporting me, right? Who's supporting me in my, it's usually, it starts with the children. It gets missed, the diagnoses get missed in the women when they're young, and we can talk about that, why that happens. And then there's nothing really out there for them, and they suffer alone, and they suffer in silence, and there isn't community support because every woman is kind of struggling alone. And that was really my impetus in getting this started, because I said, like, first of all, I said, who's supporting the women? During COVID, I started noticing a lot of people were starting to seek diagnoses and starting to become more self-aware and things, because there was less structure. Women started trying to understand themselves better, their children better. And I did a lot of research, and I said, there's really nothing out there for women in general. They're just somehow are supposed to hold everything together and figure it out. So that's why I started this. And Baruch Hashem, it's really growing. And the feedback I'm getting is like, for the first time, I understand how my brain works. And there are women out there that are going through similar things, and that we're supporting each other. So, Baruch Hashem.
I love that. I love that so much because you know how you mentioned that, like, yeah, like you love my approach and it's so aligned for you. And imagine so many parents listening who do have ADHD, or like, I love how you don't put a label on it. I love how you write, like I noticed in your bio, you write executive functioning challenges, or I don't remember how you wrote it. But like, yeah, like you don't have to necessarily even have a diagnosis, is what I'm understanding, in order to be like, I need support with this. Like something about the way running my household or taking care of a million things is just like very overwhelming for me. It just isn't working out so well, doesn't come naturally to me or whatever. Yeah, and I love how, like, yeah, it might be aligned for them, but it just feels so overwhelming. It's like they're already overwhelmed with just like the basic practical tasks of every day. And it's like, and then on top of that, I'm supposed to like emotionally attune to it. Just like it could seem like so much. And I feel so much compassion for parents like that. And I love that, like, yeah, you create support for them so that to make it possible for them to be how they wish to be, or to show up how they wish to show up.
Exactly, exactly true. And really, it's, there are definitely therapists out there that do private one-on-one executive functioning coaching. But I really feel like it's very difficult to do it without a supportive community.
Mm.
And the more, it's about awareness also. It's about each woman, one woman at a time, learning about how her brain works. Again, the diagnosis is irrelevant. It's all about how can I learn what's going on in my brain and why, possibly with or without a diagnosis, I'm not able to manage, or things are not going in the way I would like them to. And then just strategies that work for a lot of people. And then the supportive community, the community where everybody's rooting for each other. Everybody gets it. We can share in the chat, like, oh, I did X, Y, and Z. I walked into a poll. I didn't even notice it. Of course you did, because we all did that, Or I was working with someone for a month and I don't remember their name. And how do I go about doing that, right? Or I'm going to the store. I have 15 minutes. I really struggle with time management, because we all do. Guys, I'm checking in on the chat. I got 15 minutes. I'm getting 3 items. Check back with me. These sorts of things in a neurotypical world, people would be like, I don't get it. Like, what's the big deal? You have to get 3 items. You got 15 minutes. Like, what's going on here? But when you are surrounding yourself with women who get it, all of a sudden, we're all in this together. We're all rooting for each other. It changes the whole culture. It's really life changing.
Wow.
So, but it starts one woman at a time, one woman at a time, and it's amazing to see the transformation. Um,
Wow.
it's incredible.
Wow. So what from understanding it well is that you actually do groups, right? Because yeah, like you said, one woman at a time. So I imagine, is it that you do one-on-one and also groups, or how does it work?
So the way it works is, it's a 6-month program, because it's
Okay.
time. It's a to progress, to under first of all, to understand um, what our executive functions are, how our brains work, and like why sometimes these things are difficult. Then we break down the executive functions one piece at a time. We explore time management, we explore emotional regulation, we explore motivation, organization, planning, all these things one at a time. And we discuss strategies that work for the neurodivergent brain, again, with or without a diagnosis of ADHD, doesn't matter. And then there's also a lot of, we learn to change our mindset about care tasks, about running our home, about how we connect and our value as a woman with how we run our home. We talk about how running a home is a skill that you can learn, and that also there are ways to do it. In when you focus on function, it's not about what the influencers tell you is a acceptable home, or what the magazine pictures tell you is an acceptable home. It's about what works for you. And we also learned that our homes serve us, we do not serve our homes. So we do a whole mindset shift.
Wow.
Then at the second half of the program, we break down care tasks like laundry, dishes, Shabbos meal planning, weekday meal planning, decluttering. We break it down in, like I said, in ways that are practical, function based, that work for what we call the neurodivergent brain. And so it's a process. and it takes time to get through that and to learn. It's not just like, here, we're just giving you skills. This is what you got to do. It's a whole process. So you get weekly. I have 24 pre-recorded videos. Once a week, you get a video in the beginning of the week. And then towards the end of the week, we have a live Zoom call based on that video. So we all talk about the like whatever was suggested. There's always homework in the video. So whatever was suggested in that video, you work through or work on during the week. And then you discuss how you implemented that strategy or how you didn't implement that strategy, or whatever it was, what you learned about yourself or whatever it is. Everyone shares. So there's accountability, but there's also no judgment, and we learn from each other so much. Those live Zoom calls are like, they fill me up because I learn so much from my clients. It's amazing. There's also a chat that goes on throughout the day. Like, people are just sharing on the chat, challenges, struggles. I need accountability. I need, so that is one piece of it. And then there's also something called body doubling, where just like you and I joined the live, so we do it through Zoom, and we have times of the week where everybody just joins a live stream. Your camera could be on or off. Nobody speaks, but we're all working on a care task, whatever it is. So we do like an Erev Shabbos prep from 8 to 9 Thursday nights. We're all there together, prepping for Shabbos on our phones, but nobody's speaking. It's called body doubling. We do opening duties and closing duties every morning and every evening to get your day going together. We're in this together. And it's incredible. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm blown away by what you created. I just absolutely love it. I can just imagine, first of all, like every part that you mentioned, it seems like it would be so supportive. By the way, even to me, like I don't consider myself having ADHD or neurodivergent. And I'm like, I think I would benefit so much from everything that you shared, but I can imagine even more so for somebody who struggles with executive function. First of all, just the like explaining it so that they understand themselves better. I think it's so helpful when we can understand what's going on inside of ourselves. And
Sure.
and then also like what you said about the mindset shift. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think like you said, the Ami magazine, the Mishpacha magazine, like all the tablescapes and there's like a certain image of like what it means to be a balabusta, what it means to like be a
Mm-hmm.
mother, run a home. And I love that you're like, there's so many ways to run a home that are effective. It doesn't have to look that way. You can still be a wonderful caretaker and a wonderful mother and a wonderful whatever it is without doing those things or looking that way, right? It's about like meeting the person where they're at and supporting them in that way. I remember from our live we did last time, that's the part that like stood out to me the most, was when you were sharing like that you actually help the women find ways to take care of their homes in a way that works for them. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
being like, oh, you should make a list of dinners for every week. Like instead of being like the typical, like be non-neurodivergent, neurotypical, it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna meet you in your neurodivergence and we're gonna find something that works for you. I love that you do that. And then the body doubling.
Yeah.
I love that, right? Right. So it's like the idea is that just having another person there supports you in doing the thing that like is hard for you to do or that you keep pushing off or something like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It just keeps you centered. There's a lot of research. Everything in my program is research based. I've done a lot of research, hundreds and thousands of hours, and it's also tested by people real life. And there's a lot of research with body doubling. It could be a person in the room sitting next to you. It could be like a spouse or a family member. You could just say to them, "Hey, can you be my body double? I'm doing dishes, you can be doing your learning or your homework." But something about having another person physically, virtually involved in an activity alongside with you, it keeps you focused, motivated, and it helps with distraction. So it's just, I don't know exactly why it works, but it does, and it's
Wow.
amazing. Clients love it.
Wow. I love that. I actually
Yeah.
remember when I was a kid, like my grandmother, cleaning for Pesach, and she's like, I need one of the grandchildren to come and help me. and I went over to her house and I literally did nothing. I was just there. And I remember coming home and being like, Mommy, I didn't help her. She kept, every time I was like, what to do? She's like, just be. And she's like, it just helps her that you're there. It's just,
Amazing. Wow.
yeah, yeah. And it's so funny because I also feel that way. Like it is helpful when someone else is there.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, listening to you, right? You mentioned that a lot of parents who are neurodivergent actually have neurodivergent children.
Mhm.
And I'm imagining that so many of the strategies that they learn end up being supported probably for their children too. Like just idea of body doubling, they're like, oh, that could be helpful to my child if they, let's say, need to clean their room or do their whatever. If they can just have somebody there, maybe that would be so supportive. I imagine so many other things they learn are supportive as well, but that's just
Yeah,
one idea that I thought of. That I was like, wow, I imagine it's just so supportive overall.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like a lot of, like, I don't focus on um child like strategies for raising children or strategies for marriage, but everything that we learn can definitely be, apply to many, many different areas of your life. So for sure. And I just love, you're talking about your bubby. There's something very special about in the good old days, right? Like back in the shtetl, when women, they had like built-in family, they had built-in supports, right? This new idea of just managing on your own, doing everything on your own, it's fairly new. It's not how we did things for the longest time. And I think a lot of women are struggling. And there were so many Shabbosim where I'm like prepping for Shabbos and I'm like, I wish I could do this with friends and people. Like, I wish I could have a group of women that were just all together doing this. Like, there's something like special about that we lost when we started moving away from our families, whatever, for whatever reason, even if your family's there, sometimes they're not necessarily involved, but there's just something special about having a community built in. And that was my main goal in this, the built-in community,
Mm,
because really my clients learn so much from each other. They really forge friendships. Like even outside of the program, they start to make connections. They'll say like, thank you so much for supporting me. They reach out privately. It's incredible. It's
wow.
really, really incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Basically, what I'm hearing is that you sort of create a village, like, right?
Mhm.
Like a shtetl. Yeah. Like you said, we moved away from living in village-like things, but the village is super supportive. We all need a village. And this is you're creating a virtual village or even, yeah, like where people can meet each other who have similar struggles and they're supporting each other in it. I really, really, really love it. I think it's I love your idea and I love what you created.
Thank you
So,
so much.
so tell us, when are you said it's 6 months,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
When are you starting your next one?
So the way it works is it goes from major, like it ends into the major Yontif, and then it starts again after Yontif. So right after Pesach, it's going to start. So that's why I opened up registration. I opened up registration fairly early because people have questions and people are still learning about me, and it's a fairly new program. It doubled in size from the last time,
Oh,
and I anticipate that it will continue to grow as more people learn about it. And then one other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, I opened up my program to everybody. My last time it was only open to people in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. The program is now open to everybody. Doesn't matter what time zone you're in. If you look on my website, there are 3 options to join the live Zoom call, the weekly live Zoom call. So you could join any one of those, and there's Israel time. It's going to be open to everyone.
wow.
However, the body doubling option is only open to people in Eastern Standard Time because that is time based. But all the other things that we offer in the program, they're open to everyone. So that's really exciting because I don't want to
Wow.
limit it. Whoever needs help, whoever needs support. Again, the diagnosis is irrelevant. Even if you just want the added support, even if you just feel like you don't want to do it alone and that you'd be more efficient, even if maybe you struggle with something, maybe it's not ADHD, maybe it's depression, and you're having a hard time just motivating yourself, and you just want that village, you want that support through the program. And you share as much as you want to share. You do not have to share your struggles if you don't want to. The only thing you share is your accountability of like what was asked of you that week. Outside of that, you can be as active as you want. So, so you could feel safe to just join and just to your comfort level.
Wow. Oh, I love everything you said. So okay, so it's after Pesach that it opens,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's for 6 months. So okay. And I love what you said. Like it doesn't I love that you mentioned depression because I'm thinking, yeah, like if somebody is struggling with depression, then yeah, I could see how that would be also so supportive, right? Because to get basic care tasks done is very hard if
Exactly.
you're struggling with it. And I love that you said you don't have to share. Like if someone doesn't feel comfortable sharing that, they don't have to. It's that yeah, they can just be there to receive the support and share just, about the care tasks and what they managed to do or didn't, whatever it is, and receive support from others. So I love that possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I could see myself even benefiting from it. Just it seems like it would be supportive to really any human. Having a village is so important. Like you said, you mentioned you're like, I wish we could just be together and do things. Like I think so many people feel that way. It's like everything, like you said, we're alone and we're just doing it and we're managing everything by ourselves. And it's so
Yeah.
nice. It's just so nice to have that. Okay, so it's on your website. Somebody asked what your handle is, which is mindfully you, but I'm going to you did.
Yeah.
I'm going to tag you, and I'm uploading this to YouTube. Somebody asked, so I am, so that people who don't have Instagram can see it. I'm going to tag you, but also I'm going to put your website there so people can, um, yeah, reach you that way. And so you said that probably people can book it through your website, but let's say, like you mentioned people might have questions. They don't know so much about it. They want to know more. How can they reach out to you?
Sure. So my Instagram is, by the way, it's 2 underscores. So mindfully 2 underscores you.
Oh,
And email me, hadassah.mindfullyu@gmail.com. You could email me. I answer all emails. Any questions you have. Um, I have quite a few clients that are open to be references to share their experience, so I can pass on their numbers to anyone who has any questions. Um, yeah, I'm accessible. So
amazing, amazing. Is your email on your website as well
yeah,
in case somebody like okay,
yes,
I
you can
figured. I
just
figured.
contact
Perfect.
through the website, and I will get the email.
Perfect.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put the website, but what is the underneath the live and the on YouTube, but what is your website?
Mindfullyu.org. It's 2 L's, 2 Y's. Mindfullyu.org.
Ah, yes. So it's basically the correct spelling for
Yeah.
mindful and you.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, and on there, they can find everything and ask you the questions. Is there anything else that you want to share about the program or just in general for parents who struggle with executive function who are neurodivergent or anything?
Absolutely. So I want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about why, again, ADHD is not a criteria. You don't have to have ADHD to get into the program. However, I want to talk about why it's very often diagnosis in women get missed.
Yes.
A lot of times it comes out later in life. People in their 30s and 40s finally seeking a diagnosis or finally understanding that they actually may have a diagnosis that got missed. Because boys and girls present differently when it comes to ADHD. The typical person that gets diagnosed with ADHD is a 7, 8, 9-year-old boy. Why? Because those those children are bouncing off the wall, disrupting, calling out. Rebbe gets upset. They don't know what to do. They call the social worker. They make an IEP. Everybody gets together. They get him tested. Okay, and they get him a diagnosis because he's disrupting the classroom. Now, the girl, the 7 or 8 or 9-year-old girl who has ADHD tends to, not always, but very often presents differently. They tend to be inattentive. So they may be looking out the window, they may be daydreaming, right? There's probably a lot of hyperactivity going on internally in their brains. They might have racing thoughts, they might be tapping or having a hard time move. But for girls, it's maybe not socially as acceptable for them to be bouncing off the walls because it's a sneeze issue, it's a midos issue, it's just the reality. So girls learn to kind of suppress that internal need for movement. And also, ADHD is a misnomer. Attention deficit disorder is a horrible name for this diagnosis because ADHD is not a deficit in attention. It's a deficit in regulating attention. So if you are interested in something and you have ADHD, you will hyper focus to the point where sometimes you can go hours or even days without eating and drinking. So you can focus on what you're interested in. And now, if a girl is internally motivated to do well, she will put all her effort and everything into doing well in school. And she can actually get straight A's. And so she's not making problems. She's getting straight A's. Nothing, there's no, right? There's no alarms that go off. But then what happens is when she leaves the school setting and there's less structure and then there are more responsibilities, then she has to kind of figure out how to manage her time better. And then marriage and then children. By the time on average, it depends on the person, but oftentimes by child 2 or 3, they're really not managing anymore and they don't understand why. And they're saying, like, why can't I manage? And so they go to the doctor and the doctors are like, okay, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I can't do it. Okay, so then they treat the depression or the anxiety, which is definitely a comorbidity oftentimes, but it's not the root cause of the issue. So they don't learn about what's going on for them, what's going on with their brain. They don't understand themselves, right? And that, like, the fixes are band-aids and it doesn't help. Sometimes it makes it worse because it's like, affirmations, think positively. If you don't have skills, you don't have skills. You can be as positive as you want, right? So a lot of times these women end up learning I think 40% of people who are neurodivergent have neurodivergent children. So they start to learn about their diagnosis through their children because they start like filling out all these questionnaires and like, it sounds a lot like me. And so those women end up learning about it way later in life. And so those are the women that I'm trying to educate. And even if you did have a diagnosis when you were younger, you don't necessarily, you're not prepared. The education is not there to prepare young women starting their lives. It's not there. It's not available. So those are the women I'm targeting. I do it in a group setting because, again, number one, I feel like the results are much better. And number two, it's way more affordable than therapy. If you go to therapy, you're paying $250 a session. So the cost of the program is about 2 therapy sessions. If you 2 to 3
Wow.
therapy sessions for 6 months.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
try to make it affordable because I'm able to in a group, and I feel very strongly that everyone should have access to support, and it shouldn't be there is an investment obviously, but the financial investment shouldn't be so much that they can't get the support that they need. So that's my little.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So what I'm hearing is that you really, really want the women to have the support.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, like, you really want to make it affordable for them, and doing it in a group setting makes it affordable, aside from the fact that I heard so many benefits from being in a group setting, right? Because that creates the opportunity to learn from each other and also to body double and all the things, right?
yeah,
But also, like you said, yeah, affordability. I just love that like that way they can get the support they need without having to like break the bank.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, wow. And I love what you mentioned about why the diagnoses go. I just found it so fascinating to hear. It's what you shared, and it makes so much sense,
I hear it all the time. And actually, I'm so grateful to Mishpacha magazine because they were so open. When I wrote them the article a few years ago, I was like, we need to talk about this. I just wrote an article and they were like, we need to spread this because people don't know. And they were so open, and so many women, like women who, like, maybe even from the Hasidic community. I have women who join my program from all different types of backgrounds, and they're like, I never heard this before. No one ever told me this, and it's incredible just to even go through the process of like teaching them about themselves, and them learning that process, and it's incredible. It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I could imagine. I also love that for the first time you're opening it up to people from all over the world, like if they're in different time zones or whatever it is. I love that because, yeah, those people need support too.
right.
So I love that that's an option now that they can
It's
join.
a little bit of a cheaper option because you're not doing the bodybuilding, so it's a little bit less money, but you really, there's so many benefits still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So you actually make it cheaper
yeah,
because they're not going to be able to do the body
yeah,
doubling.
yeah. And some
Wow.
people body double on their own. You could create your own body doubles. People do that
That's what
you
I
know,
was thinking. If
for
they're
me.
in a, yeah, like if they're in a group, they could reach out to somebody. Like,
Exactly.
I create a group where basically people offer each other empathy and they reach out to each other. And like, I'm thinking you could reach out to somebody in your time zone and say, would you be or even, whatever, not too much of a difference. Would you be available to let's do it together?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because once you learn about that skill, then you're like, oh, let's use it. And you can,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, when you see how supportive it is, you're like, and if you're both in the group, it's not like weird. Like I imagine if you just reach out to a friend and you say like, and they'll be like, what? No, like that's weird. But for
exactly.
somebody who's in the group who understands how important it is for them, and then it's such a great, it's a great space to reach out to somebody else.
Exactly. Because we all get it. We all get it. We all get each other. And it's such a safe space. It's amazing. Really.
I love it. I'm telling you, Hadassah, I absolutely love what you've created. I
So
really
much.
like, I just love it. I love the support that you've created. I love the idea. It just seems like such a solid, great, yeah, thing. I don't know what to call it that you've created for women.
Thank
So I also love that you write in the mishpacha and that you create that awareness. It's so amazing. So I think we gave all the information about your website, the course, the what I don't know what you call it. What do you a program?
Yeah.
Right. It sounds more like a program. So and where they can reach you. Is there any last things before we finish that you want to share or yeah.
I my last words are you do not have to do this alone. We are not meant to do it alone. We have nothing to be ashamed of. Your brain may just work differently than other people, and the world that we live in today was made for neurotypical people. That is just the way it is. With all the schedules and the this and the that, we do not thrive in this kind of environment, but you can if you learn how your brain works and you create your own community and support. You can thrive.
Wow. Like that just listening to you gives me so much hope. I'm just imagining somebody who really struggles with like everyday tasks and just taking care of their home. It's just I can imagine just how much hope it gives to hear like, yeah, you can find a way that works for you and there is support out there and like,
Yes.
yeah, we're here to help you. I'm here to help you, like what you're saying. So thank you so much for coming on, for
Thank
creating
you
the
for having
program, and for everybody who joins. Yeah, and I guess Hatzlacha. I hope that it goes
me.
really well and that
Thank you
many
so much.
people join.
Thank you for giving me a voice
My pleasure.
all right.
My pleasure. Thank
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye bye.